lay awake. 4 a.m. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Birds were singing. I pressed my pillow over my face. Morning, babe. I mumbled into lavender-scented sheets. 3 days since I caught him kissing Kai. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Jet groaned into his pillows in response, a streak of annoyance in his tone. Part of me wondered if he'd have that tone if Kai were in his arms. I squeezed my eyes shut, suffocating myself inside lavender until I was choking on it. I couldn't control my voice. I couldn't control the sting in my eyes or the lump in my throat. Fuck. I pressed harder until I was sure. If I continued to apply pressure, I would lose consciousness. It wasn't anger I was feeling. If I was angry, I would throw the pillow at the wall. No, I wasn't angry. I was aware I was gripping the pillow, my fingernails scrunched up in its material. I was curious. Jet, I said again, unable to stop my tone hardening. I sensed movement before his warm arms found my waist, his lips brushing my shoulder in a kiss. He sighed, deep and heavy. Maybe it was an I don't love you anymore sigh. My mind drifted back to the day before, the pool party. I wasn't ashamed of showing him off to all my friends. I'd left Jed to mingle with the crowd, and when I returned, to strawberry martinis in hand, it was just in time to see him making out with Kai Denver. The two of them swayed to the beat, bathed in neon light, their hands finding each other slowly, hesitantly, as I watched. I tried to push it out of my head, to snap back to the present, but the memory festered like curdled milk. Kai grabbed Jet's shirt collar and pulled him closer. They stood out in the crowd, Jet's thick brown hair clashing with Kai's sandy blonde. Kai's hands cupped his cheeks, eyes half-lidded, lips cracking into a teasing smile. His lips found my boyfriend's in a very slow, very real kiss, which, to my confusion, deepened. The two of them were lost in the crowd, in each other. I was sure if I hadn't made my presence known with a sharp cough, the two would have disappeared upstairs. They sprang apart the moment they saw me. Jet turned with a wide smile, a slow, spreading blush blossoming across his cheeks. Kai was slower. His hands lingered, deliberately, still clutching my boyfriend's shirt collar, even with his own girlfriend standing just a few feet away. Kai started it, I kept telling myself, but I couldn't deny Jet's grin. The way he leaned in again, hungry, almost desperate, his fingers threading, entangled in sandy blonde curls. Stop! I exhaled into my pillow, trying to banish the image of the two of them wrapped around each other, moving in sync, twin smiles and sparkling eyes, like the two of them fit. Jet had looked at me like that, right? Yes, of course he had. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Jet, I said, louder, exhaling into my pillow. It's 4 a.m., Isabel, Jet sighed. His body moved against mine, but it felt heavy, wrong. His legs tangled around me, clammy with sweat, but we didn't have sex. Maybe he was thinking about Kai. Maybe he'd gotten too excited. The pool is the perfect temperature. Do you want to stay in bed? I felt his breath tickle my neck as he rolled onto his side. I could sense the teasing smile curving on his lips. Or go for a dip. There's nothing worse than the feeling of doubt in the ones you love, the ones you give yourself to, in sickness and in health, till death do us part, always and forever. I had already rehearsed my wedding speech, and I had yet to be proposed to, but I knew it was coming. We had been dating for almost 2 years. He was my best friend, my soulmate. We'd known each other since we were kids, so it was inevitable, right? High school sweethearts. We bought our own house at 23, a cute suburban home with a white picket fence, our very own American dream. But why? I smothered the bad thoughts, rolled over, and kissed him. He kissed back, half asleep, eyes still shut, smiling, like he loved me, like he wasn't thinking about a boy. I noticed he was slow, his hands barely cradling my face. He kissed Kai with confidence, like he was used to him, like he knew his face. Every crease in his jaw, lips that somehow knew every part of him. He kissed Kai with a smile I had never seen before. I waited for him to cup my cheeks, to hold me like I mattered. Jet just let out a deep exhale and buried his head in the pillow. After a full minute of staring at the clock on the wall, drowning in what-ifs, I finally sat up. Let's go out. I slipped out of bed, my legs unsteady, like I was walking on air. I dressed quickly, dragged a comb through my hair, and grabbed my phone. 4:30. I could wait an hour. When Jet didn't respond, still wrapped in blankets, I dove into our closet and grabbed a dress. Get up, I said, tossing clothes onto the bed and ignoring his groan of protest. The more awake and alert I was, the darker my thoughts grew. He was smiling in his sleep. I thought it was because of me. When there was no movement from our bed, I pulled off my sock and threw it at him. In pure Jet fashion, he buried his head in his arms. Did you just throw a sock at me? He mumbled. I ignored him. Come on, it's a beautiful day. I yanked open the curtains, flooding the room with light. The sky was a pre-dawn crystalline blue. The birds were singing their annoying fucking songs, and my boyfriend was thinking about a boy. When he didn't respond again, I grew impatient, grabbing my jacket and flinging it on. Jet, get up. He sprang up, diving out of bed. Sorry. I handed him clean clothes. He dressed quickly, throwing on a shirt and stumbling into his pants. Jet's style was my style. I chose all his clothes, his shoes, even his hairstylist. It was summer, so for him, I went with a loose tee and cargo shorts. I couldn't resist running my fingers through his hair, stretching up onto my toes to peck him on the cheek. He stood over me at 6 foot something, effortlessly flawless. Jet's smile was sleepy but cautious. His eyes followed mine. Tawny brown, just the way I liked them. But it wasn't the way he looked at Kai. There was no real warmth, no spark. Instead of wrapping around me, his arms stayed at his sides. He slowly inclined his head, reminding me of when we were kids. And he would use the puppy dog eyes to swindle candy from me. Where are we going? I handed him his shoes, and he took them, uncertainly. Just out? Jet followed me all the way downstairs and straight, out the door into the already sweltering heat. I was glad I was wearing a dress. He slid into my car and immediately switched on the radio. Isabel, it's 4 a.m. I shrugged, starting up the car. It's a nice day. The car ride was undeniably tense. Jet stared out the window, watching early morning traffic blur past, his dark brown hair set alight by orange streaks of sunrise bleeding through the glass. He was traditionally handsome, sculpted jawline, perfect eyes, cheekbones to die for. I was lucky to have scored someone like Jet. Somehow, I knew he was thinking about Kai, about their kiss, about how to break it to me gently. I love someone else, Isabel. His big brown eyes were screaming, which could only mean one thing. I was sweating. My thighs clung to the leather seats. My breath was stuck in my throat. Fuck. I found my voice, the words that had been suffocating me. When Jet switched off the radio and turned to me like he knew I was drowning, choking on the words tangled on my tongue. Jet, I said, keeping my gaze on the road. Do you remember Adam? Jet frowned. Adam. It had been 1,350 days since I lost my best friend. When I was 18, I craved perfection in a partner. I had grown up at the dawn of evolving technology, the ability to transform yourself into something more. Dad died when I was 5, and Mom brought home Leo the next day, and they had been together ever since. Their relationship made me believe in true perfection, the perfect human for me. I wanted the perfect jawline, the perfect hair. It didn't end with looks. I wanted a personality that shined. I didn't expect them to laugh at my jokes. I wanted them to laugh at their own, at themselves. But I also wanted them to be pretentious and a little rude. I wanted a guy who would gladly step on me, someone ditzy and intelligent. I was yet to find him. Don't even get me started on my high school standards. I came to realize my perfect boy was in fact my best friend. Adam, the boy next door, the boy who didn't know I existed. Romantically, at least. I had known Adam since we were little kids, pulling faces at each other through our windows. The problem was, our parents hated each other. Adam's mom made the mistake of asking if Leo was mom's real boyfriend. So I was given strict orders to stay away. But he kept appearing at his window. At first, I was shy, hiding behind my curtains while Adam played peekaboo with his. I liked the twinkle in his eye, the way he giggled when I told him to go away. I would draw my curtains and peek through, which made him laugh. As we grew up, I found myself edging closer to my bedroom window, finding comfort in his presence. At school, we were strangers. Adam hung out with gross boys who blew boogers out of their nose. One night after dinner, I scribbled, "Do you want to play?" on my notepad, and he surprised me with a grin. Yes, we started swapping notes and talking for hours each night after school. I started opening my window, leaning out to chat with him. One evening, he introduced me to his entire stuffed animal collection, so of course I had to introduce him to mine. Before long, Adam grew brave. He showed up at our front door, a mess of brown curls, freckles, and scarlet cheeks. When Mom tried to shoo him away, he held up a crumpled scrap of paper, a capitalized plea in red crayon. "Please, please, please, can I play with Izzy?" When Mom didn't respond, he quickly added, "You look very pretty, Mrs. Kane." Mom sighed and rolled her eyes, but she was fighting a smirk. "I'm flattered, Adam." Adam's eyes lit up. He grinned, jumping up and down. "So, Izzy can play." "Do what you want," she grumbled, turning away from us. "And tell your mother to learn some manners, young man." When Mom slammed the door on us, Adam turned to me, giggling. His smile was contagious. We grew up together, and my stomach started to flutter whenever he smiled. Puberty slammed into me. I got my first period, and boys suddenly didn't seem that gross anymore. I started to feel breathless and maybe a little nauseous when we lay on the grass watching clouds. We were 14 when Adam had a growth spurt. His freckles became more prominent, which I hated. But he was also getting love letters from girls in our class. I had sweaty palms and flushed cheeks, and I couldn't understand why talking to Adam had become so much harder. I got tongue-tied and tripped over my words, my face burning. I had a crush, a gut-churning, butterfly-inducing, world-ending crush on the boy next door. That realization hit when we were 16. After I had already been on my fair share of dates, but none of them were Adam, who was that perfection I craved. I didn't want a boy like him. I wanted him. One night, I was watching Adam change through my window. I didn't even realize I was peeking. It was a mistake. That's what I told myself. I totally didn't mean to see him. When he looked directly at me, I ducked, busted. I tried to play it cool, jumping to my feet and saying, "Oh," I dropped my hairbrush. He was already grinning, mouthing, "Nice try." I pretended not to see another shadow behind him who moved closer, wrapping their arms around his neck, making him laugh. The two of them tumbled onto his bed. Adam dived to his feet and drew the curtains before I could see anything. I left it to my imagination, aware of prickling heat rising in my cheeks. I pulled my own curtains shut, my heart pounding, my stomach twisting. The boy next door was taken. On his 20th birthday, he had a party, but nobody came. While half of our year was celebrating graduation, others were numb with terror. Instead, the two of us ate cake and drank beers and watched clouds like we were kids again, like we could hold onto our youth in one perfect afternoon. I sat on the edge of his pool, dangling my feet in crystal water lapping over my toes. I'd received my letter the day before. I let it sit in my bedroom for 2 hours while I paced up and down the stairs, then heaved up my breakfast. Eventually, when I couldn't take it anymore, when my skin was crawling, I tore it open, read a single word, and broke into Mom's wine cabinet, polishing off 3 bottles. I didn't hold the same hope for the boy next door. Adam lounged on a pool float, head bowed, a beer pressed to his lips. That exact same envelope crumpled in his trembling hands. He was already drunk, slightly off kilter. I pretended not to see the self-inflicted scar cutting through his eye. The last thing Adam wanted to be was perfect. "What do you think it says, Izzy?" he said, slurring a little. I didn't look up from the surface of the pool, watching the last streaks of sunlight dance across the glittering blue as the sky faded into diffused twilight. The boy next door was taken, and my chest ached. It was getting harder to breathe around him, like my lungs were starved of oxygen. If this was what falling in love was, I didn't want it. It was agonizing, cruel. It was wrong to feel like this about some stupid boy. I wanted perfect, and Adam wasn't. So why was I swallowing razor blades when I was with him? A never-ending push and pull between us. Adam was a virus burning through my blood, intoxicating my thoughts with only him. Telling him my feelings would be selfish. Telling him would ruin what we had. But keeping my feelings from him was ripping my heart to shreds. "Just open it," I said, kicking my legs. He did, tearing into it. I ducked my head, squeezing my eyes shut. Adam didn't speak for a long time. It was long enough for me to risk glancing under my lash. Something in my gut flipped. He was trying so hard to hide it, but I could see the way his jaw clenched, the glassiness in his eyes, crying, but not just crying. I saw the lump in his throat, the curl of his lip that was trying to be angry. He wasn't angry. Adam was fucking terrified. Adam didn't have to say it. I already knew what it said. I watched him stare down at his fate before he scoffed, screwed it up, and dumped the letter in the water. "Rejected," he said with a grin, wading to the side of the pool and pulling himself out. He was shaking, yet still wearing that plastic smile. "I guess I'm in the clear." "Yeah," I said, hating myself for sounding uninterested, uncaring, when in reality, I think we were both fracturing. I was ashamed of how my gaze lingered where it shouldn't, on the sculpted muscles of his back, the way wet strands of hair stuck to his forehead and fell into light green eyes. There was no way Adam McIntyre had been rejected, but still, I nodded and smiled, ignoring the way he kept swiping at raw eyes, muttering, "I think I'm allergic to something in the pool. I'm going to grab another beer," Adam said, still putting on a show, still hiding behind a facade he knew I could see right through. He grabbed his phone from the patio, frowning at the screen. "Want one?" I saluted him with my soda. "I'm good." There was one thing Adam was terrible at, lying. He fidgeted on his feet, unable to meet my eyes. When I heard the wet slap of his footsteps disappear inside the house, I slipped into the water and fished out the letter. It was barely legible, the ink already bleeding onto my hands. But all I really needed to see was the beginning. For the attention of M.R. Adam McIntyre. Congratulations! You have been selected as a suitable candidate for Conversion Class B as part of the M.R. Artificial Matchmaking and Optimization Registry, following biometric, psychological, and appearance evaluations. You have been awarded a compatibility score of 9 Class Beta. Please report to your local AMOR Processing Center by 0900 hours on Monday, June 24th for reconstruction.com. Failure to do so will have consequences. Your family will be compensated. You are strictly forbidden to engage in the following henceforth before reconstruction: smoking, drug use, overeating.com, sexual activity. Do not self-inflict injuries on your body. This includes brain-altering substances. These will not pardon you. We thank you for your contribution to a more unified future. The Central Placement Authority Office of Social Alignment and Trust, Unity. Mr. McIntyre begins with you. By the time I was finished skimming the letter, my heart was in my throat. I found Adam in his parents' basement. I squeezed shut a knife to the curve of his throat. But he wasn't stupid. The letter was very clear. I couldn't do anything but wrap my arms around him. He dropped the knife, letting it hit the floor. "Go away." Adam's voice was shaky, a warning. but I was used to his mood swings. I didn't let go, clinging to him. At first, he was stiff, arms hanging useless at his sides. Then, slowly, something in him broke. He leaned into me, burying his face in my shoulder. Bit by bit, the boy next door began to unravel. "Fuck," he whispered, his words splintering into a sob. I held him as he shattered, sobbing and screaming, until his cries collapsed into broken whimpers. He clung to me like I was an anchor, and I felt helpless. Hopeless that I couldn't help him. I'm supposed to go to fucking college, and they ... this. I'm not going. Do you hear me? I'm not letting them do this to me. His laugh caught in his throat. Tears soaked my shoulder, warm, somehow comforting. And so fucking human I almost let myself break too. "I'll get the fuck out of here," he whispered, his lips brushing my ear. An involuntary shiver ran down my spine. I've heard of what they do in those places. I've seen the videos. "And your mom's boyfriend." He trailed off, but I knew what he was going to say, when he finally sank to the floor. Curling his knees to his chest, I sank down with him. He lit a cigarette with a sigh. I rested my head on his. We sat in peaceful silence. I liked the feeling of his head resting in the crook of my shoulder. "So," he murmured, taking a drag of the cigarette. "What was your score?" I ignored his question for a moment, focusing on the ignition of orange between his fingers. "Are you even inhaling that?" He groaned, tipping his head back. His gaze strayed on the ceiling. "I'm trying to." Adam passed me the cigarette, and I took a slow, uncertain pull. I immediately choked, coughing up smoke. Oh God, I waggled my tongue, the sticky taste of nicotine glued to my mouth. I handed it back, and he chuckled. We passed it back and forth for a while, neither of us inhaling, both of us faking it. After all, that's what we did with candy cigarettes as kids. Growing up sucks. I scored an 8, I said to his earlier question. His expression crumpled, smile fading. "Sounds like they don't find you attractive." I shoved him playfully, but he was right. I was assessed as average at an 8.0. According to my letter, my intelligence and nose brought me down from an 8.5. I silently thanked my mother and father's average genes. But that didn't stop the self-hatred, the constant need to make myself desirable. Jay was accepted too. Adam said softly. I heard kids manage to escape. Adam's breath was warm. "There's a European rebel group fighting for us, and if we can somehow get into Canada." "Adam," I spoke softly, "let's not talk about it tonight." I allowed myself to smile. "It's your birthday." When he finally sank to the floor, curling his knees to his chest, I sank down with him. He lit a cigarette with a sigh. I rested my head on his. We sat in peaceful silence. I liked the feeling of his head resting in the crook of my shoulder. "So," he murmured, taking a drag of the cigarette. "What was your score?" I ignored his question for a moment, focusing on the ignition of orange between his fingers. "Are you even inhaling that?" He groaned, tipping his head back. His gaze strayed on the ceiling. "I'm trying to." Adam passed me the cigarette, and I took a slow, uncertain pull. I immediately choked, coughing up smoke. Oh God, I waggled my tongue, the sticky taste of nicotine glued to my mouth. I handed it back, and he chuckled. We passed it back and forth for a while, neither of us inhaling, both of us faking it. After all, that's what we did with candy cigarettes as kids. Growing up sucks. I scored an 8, I said to his earlier question. His expression crumpled, smile fading. "Sounds like they don't find you attractive." I shoved him playfully, but he was right. I was assessed as average at an 8.0. According to my letter, my intelligence and nose brought me down from an 8.5. I silently thanked my mother and father's average genes. But that didn't stop the self-hatred, the constant need to make myself desirable. Jay was accepted too, Adam said softly.